Oh, hi. It's going to be a bit of a change for me talking to a bunch of people through a computer, but we're all getting used to it. I'm Jared Parson. I'm the general manager at Wave. I'm here right now, as you might be able to see in the background. We're a live music venue in downtown Wichita. We opened in September of 2018. We hold a variety of events. Like trivia, farmers markets. We've got community events and fundraisers, and obviously a lot of concerts. We have sold over 100,000 tickets in 44 states and 14 countries since we've been open, and that doesn't include many of the free events that we do all the time, really. But we do about an average of 400 events a year. And we're not alone in struggling as a business during the pandemic. Obviously, many businesses are suffering during this time, but there are some challenges that put small music venues in an extra tough spot. For example, you can't serve live music takeout. So we've had really zero revenue since April. I believe our last kind of exciting thing that we had was St. Patrick's Day. Since being closed, we have tried a few different things to create income. We started our Funky Fresh online farmers market. I'm just scrolling through a few photos right now that we've had events here. So that's the Flaming Lips in the background. So now onto the market. We started the market so people could buy products from local farmers and vendors on our website and then pick them up in our parking lot, or we'd deliver them within 20 miles for a small fee. This was something we'd tried to try and support local vendors. It was still cold out, and none of the outdoor markets had opened up yet, and it did all right. We did about 500 orders, but once it started being warm enough for the outdoor markets to open up, we kind of lost a lot of our vendors, and sales drastically decreased. But the profit margins on that were pretty small as well. It was only 10 or 20%. So wasn't really a super fruitful revenue source, but it was super nice to be able to support the local struggling farmers and vendors during that time. We also did, which everybody's used to now, is some live stream concerts with local artists, but they never did much but produce content for our social media. Lots of people are struggling, don't have a lot of income right now, so relying on tips for live streaming is a little difficult. So just to give you an idea on how much it costs to run a music venue, because what I'm going to get into later is how we're struggling to survive. Is we need about $1,900 a day in profits to break even, which on top of buying all the produce and beer and such, we have to make $1,900 on top of that. So being closed for the last 257 days, that puts us right now at about $500,000 in debt. Thankfully, our debtors and banks have allowed us to delay those payments, but they're adding interest every day. You might have heard of the Paycheck Protection Program. It was a loan to help out struggling businesses. We did get some money from that, but because of the rules on how that money has to be spent on payroll versus overhead, it wasn't much help. I was able to pay my employees a little longer, which is great, but we couldn't. I think we could only put like 20 or 30% of that towards our actual expenses, which is really the thing that's hurting us. So kind of on to the more exciting stuff. That's just a little bit of background. I've been focusing most of all my efforts on So I've been focusing all my efforts on the National Independent Venue Association, which was just created in April to try and save independent venues nationwide. It is Wave was the 18th venue to join. and it's a nonprofit organization, and now it has over 3,000 different venues across the entire United States. With Wave being an early member, we have been a large part of working with the organization from the beginning. The owner here, one of them is Adam Harkey, and he's been working tirelessly along the side of the president of NEVA, which is Dana Frank, to advocate for legislation to be passed to save our stages, which is the hashtag we use on social media, which is fitting. My main personal involvement with NEVA has been handling our social media, everything from brainstorming, marketing tactics, design and graphics, to responding to comments and actually posting the content. The NEVA social media channels have almost 100,000 followers between them all. So it's quite a bit of work, or it can be. But I also don't really feel comfortable taking a whole lot of credit for a lot of this. NEVA is run entirely by volunteers spread all over the U.S. I'm one of them, but and most of them work at venues or worked at venues that are temporarily closed. And we're all literally fighting for survival and hope that our jobs in our favorite venues will still be here once it's all over. So, we're all happy to be doing this. We sent out a study to our member venues, and it said that 90% of our independent venue members reported that they will be forced to close permanently without federal support soon. If you've ever been to a concert that wasn't at a large arena, then they're likely part of our network and at risk of closing forever. Many of these spots have been open for many years, and the employees really are like family. For an example, Dana Frank, who's the president of NEVA, she owns First Avenue in Minneapolis, and it's where Prince performed on Purple Rain. And this year they couldn't celebrate their 50th year of being open due to COVID-19. She says that if First Avenue goes down, I'll lose my house. So that's very regular sentiment from nearly all of the venue owners in our network, that they're all very personally involved. With some of these bigger venues, it's corporations, and they don't have personal risk quite as much as we do. So NEVA, with it being made up of a network of music industry workers with lots of connections, we reached out to some artists, and in June of 2020, a few months, 2 months after being forced to close, as a response to the growing crisis in the entertainment industry, over 600 major recording artists, including Dave Grohl, Neil Young, Billie Eilish, Lady Gaga, Robert Plant, Willie Nelson, and John Mayer, signed a letter to Congress asking legislators to financially support these institutions. Spots like, I normally wouldn't just read the letter, but it really is a perfect summation of our mission. They said, "We will know America is back when our music venues are filled with fans enjoying concerts safely. The live music experience is deeply tied to our nation's cultural and economic fabric. In fact, 53% of Americans, that's 172 million, attended a concert last year alone. We urge you to remember we are the nation that gave the world jazz, country, rock and roll, bluegrass, hip hop, metal, blues, and R&B. Entertainment is America's largest economic export, with songs written and produced by American artists sung in every place on the globe. Of all these genres of music and all the artists behind them, were able to thrive because they had neighborhood independent venues to play and hone their craft, build an audience, and grow into entertainers bring joy to millions. Independent venues give artists their start, often as the first stage most of us have played on. These venues were the first to close and will be the last to reopen. With zero revenue and the overwhelming overhead of rent, mortgage, utilities, taxes, insurance, and others, 90% of independent venues report that if the shutdown lasts 6 months and there's no federal assistance, they will never reopen again. We're asking you to support NEVA's request for assistance so these beloved venues can reopen when it's safe and welcome us and our fans back in. The collapse of this crucial element in the music industry's ecosystem would be devastating. Independent venues are asking for an investment to secure their future, not a handout. One Chicago report found that every dollar small venues generate in ticket sales results in $12 of economic activity. So for every dollar that they spend on tickets, it's $12 back to the community. If these independent venues close forever, cities and towns across America will not only lose their cultural and entertainment hearts, but they will lose the engine that would otherwise be a driver of economic renewal for all the businesses that surround them. With respect and solidarity, we as artists and community members ourselves urge you to pass federal legislation that will help save our stages. So that was a big first push on trying to actually do something and get help from the government, which is something that I never had considered trying. And so then we spent a few weeks turning those celebrity signatures into a series of graphics that we could share and thank the artists. We also hope they'd reshare and expand our brand. I ended up making a post of about 40 of these. I've got a view here, it looks like, yeah. And I usually spend about 3 hours a day checking our notifications. We're always looking to reshare a post a big musician has made, and many of them share on their Instagram story, so it expires, within a day or so. So our first big move in July is that we evolved from a hashtag to legislation. So we spent a lot of time pushing the Save Our Stages hashtag. And in a new bill that NEVA helped draft, the Save Our Stages Act, or SOS Act, was introduced into the House of Representatives by Senators Amy Klobuchar, a Minnesota Democrat, and John Corwin, a Texas Republican. So it's important to note that this is a bipartisan act. A lot of this stuff, acts in government was really kind of boring to me in the past, but whenever it's really important to get involved, and especially now that we're trying to save our stages. The Save Our Stages Act basically was going to provide $10 billion of financial support to live local music venues for payroll and other expenses during the pandemic. Sounds like a lot, $10 billion, but as I mentioned before, we're already $500,000 in debt, and have made nothing in the past 8 months, and in fact we're negative because we've been giving out ticket refunds to thousands of people, which we're happy to do, but it's just money coming out of our pockets. So yeah, like I said, I never in my life imagined I'd have any part of turning a bill into law. I should have paid more attention in government class, really, but I've learned a lot since then. Let's see. If there are any questions right now, feel free. I'm kind of just going through the motions here. So since that letter to Congress from the artists went out, we started asking people to go to saveourstages.com and to fill out this easy form. You just put in your name and your address and a couple of other information, and it will automatically send an email to your representatives in your state. It takes a few seconds, I think like 20 seconds, and you can do it as many times as you want every day if you'd like. And based upon that, on October 1st, the House of Representatives passed and the $2.2 trillion HEROES Act, which included the Save Our Stages Act, which was a pretty cool deal. The HEROES Act not only will save venues, but it brings back a lot of the pandemic support that people saw at the beginning, like the extra $600 a week of unemployment. It increased SNAP benefits. It'll bring back the $1,200 economic checks that everybody got that one time. So basically, we're halfway there. It's passed in the House. So now we just got to pass it through the Senate. But with nearly 2 million letters sent, we're still hoping Congress does the right thing and passes legislation that'll help us out. But while we wait for Congress, many venues are still at risk of closing forever if they don't get help today. So this answers the first question we've got, which is what are your plans going into 2021? And right now, since we're waiting for Congress, like I said, many venues are still at risk of closing forever if they don't get help today. So in October, we launched the National Independent Venue Association Emergency Relief Fund. It's the NEVA ERF, is what we call it, to raise money for our most vulnerable venues. And keep them afloat while we wait on Congress. And in the meantime, while we wait on Congress, we have been spending a lot of time targeting specific senators and other representatives that would help us get things moving. Like Marco Rubio, for example, was a big one. And we found out that doing some research and studies, we've been working with a lobbying group in DC that we hired, and they have helped us research and find out how we can reach these representatives and get them to support us. But we found out that he's a big fan, Mark Rubio's a big fan of EDM and West Coast hip hop, which was kind of a fun random fact that I never imagined. But so we asked some artists to give them a call and ask them to support the legislation. We've also done targeted social media campaigns and asked all of our venues to tag them in their posts, as you can see here. We've spent a lot of time, really a lot of time talking to our government. It's been good. It's nice to get connected and know your representatives and let them know what your interests are. So back to the Emergency Relief Fund. In October, NEVA partnered with YouTube for a 3-day virtual music festival to benefit Save Our Stages. This benefit aimed to generate more awareness, advocacy, and donations for the Emergency Relief Fund. It happened on October 16th through the 18th, and Billboard said some of the most recognized names in rock, country, pop, and hip hop are coming together for the most star-packed, culturally consequential music experience of the pandemic. So that is quite a sentence. It included, let me see here. I'm going to go ahead and play the preview that we put together of that festival real quick. All right, so you saw a lot of that. It kind of went by really quick, but people have short attention spans, so we got it out there. So it was 35 artists, including the Foo Fighters, Reba McEntire, Marshmello, Demi Lovato, Miley Cyrus, and YG, and they performed live and original sets at dozens of at-risk venues. There were no crowds in the venues, but we still raised nearly $2 million in online donations and merchandise sales during the fest, which is huge. But just to pound in the seriousnness of all this and venues having to close, this $2 million is still a drop in the bucket for the 10 billion that we actually need to save these 3,000 plus different venues across the nation. And we also had some pretty cool merchandise, like custom edition screen printed posters that would be just like the kind of poster you got if you were to go to one of these concerts. But we actually made sure that the venues were represented in each of the posters. One pretty cool thing about the festival was Miley Cyrus's performance. I mean, they're all great, but just one of her songs has already been streamed or watched on YouTube 7 million times, and she even added as the closing track to her newest album as Zombie live from Neva Save Our Stages Festival. And it's obviously not her most popular song, but it's really great exposure for Neva. But don't worry if you missed the fest. You can still watch performances and get merchandise at saveourstages.com. And we are still accepting donations. So I'm going to look at a couple of questions here. So other ways to support small businesses. I mean, we just had Small Business Saturday. A lot of things you can do for venues, or a lot of people offer gift cards. It's really different for every spot. I think a lot of places are selling merchandise. Just really, spend your money locally the best you can is the best thing I could say. This question says, what is the most difficult thing you've learned while dealing with legislators? It's interesting. So Marco Rubio, for example, he didn't seem that interested in helping us out. We had 2 million people reach out to their representatives, and he saw that. Let's see, I think I might have something. No, I don't. And but he saw that, in one of these previous slides. I had it. Let's see. This one here. You can see it says, Senator Rubio, help us stay afloat. We were pretty adamant about trying to get his attention and other politicians and senators' attention. And they were aware of us. We kind of went to extra lengths we found out one of somebody we knew lived in his neighborhood. He runs by their house every day. So we put a Save Our Stages sign, like a little sign in their front yard. So every day on his run, he would see it. As you can see, we targeted him multiple times and had venues reach out to him. So really the hardest thing I learned was that it didn't really seem like they cared. It's a little frustrating. They're supposed to represent the people and the needs, but he seemed to care. He seemed more excited whenever these celebrities called him than people just emailing him and listening to his constituents. So that was tough, but it is what it is. Really. So here's a question from Jacob Chambers. What exactly would a safer concert venue look like specifically? So with a lot of the limitations that states and cities have put on large events, they're looking at at 25% or 50% capacity, which is cool and all, but you can't pay 50% of your bills or 25% of your bills. As far as safety goes, we're not planning on opening up until the social distancing is over. We could have been open with local shows, and but it just doesn't make us enough money, and we would much rather keep people safe and discourage large gatherings than try to make a little bit of money. So that the longer people are going to events and big gatherings, the longer this pandemic goes on, and the longer it's going to be before we can open up and have fun big concerts. So I don't really know if there's such thing as a safer concert venue right now. I know that in a few cities they've done big bubble parties where people get inside seriously just little bubbles and watch concerts. But other than that, it's really just waiting and trying to make the right decisions and hoping that we can get past this. And that's why it's so scary to think about. Like I said, it's already been 8 months. I really don't know when we'll be able to open up again. Let's see if there's any more questions here. Honestly, I'm not sure. I believe all the artists did perform for free. I know the stream was free. Sorry, that question. The stream was free to watch, and people just donated through YouTube, and you can still go to our YouTube channel and do that. A lot of them have donated their time and efforts. It really has been pretty cool to see the support we've gotten from musicians, huge artists that I never. It's funny running the social media or helping with it. Is Coldplay just tagged me in a post. It's not me obviously, but it's just funny, and it's great. So let me catch up here. So there is go here. There's one good thing that came out of this really horrible situation. The banding together of thousands of venues has created a powerful network that is possibly able to compete with big corporations like Live Nation and AEG. Live Nation owns Ticketmaster and 145 venues in North America. They would use their deep pockets to buy entire tours and route them exclusively to their venues, depriving independent venues of profitable tour opportunities. And another concern is that with a lot of venues closing, I think we're up to like around 100 venues across the nation have closed already permanently. And people are, a lot of people argue that, well, somebody else will buy them and they'll open up again. But Live Nation has a history of buying independent venues and changing them, taking out their character, and really they could create a monopoly on the live music industry and increase ticket prices and ticket fees and who knows what. So really it's kind of scary, and so hopefully that doesn't happen. So now it's almost December, and we've been lobbying for government support for nearly 7 months, and 1,000 venues nationwide have been closed for even longer, many permanently. So studies say it could be 2022. I've talked about a little bit of this before, but before we have safe concerts again. Even once it's safe to gather in large groups, it takes months to book and organize and promote tours. And so really, why do we even travel anywhere? It's for entertainment. It's for music. It's art. It's culture. It's food. It's fun. We go out to experience a lot of what happens at these venues, and we still need Congress to act. And we still need you to go to saveourstages.com and ask them to help. And really, it's what it comes down to. This is our big push now is you don't know what you've got till it's gone. It's kind of our plea for help. So that's really the end of what I have for my main presentation. If anybody has more questions, let's see if I've missed anything here. So Marco Rubio, I don't believe he said what his favorite West Coast rapper was. I think something like Tupac, I believe, or Biggie, whichever one. But we actually read it in a news story, so I'm sure you could find it if you're curious. But yeah, so if anybody else has questions, I'm in no hurry to go anywhere, but we did one big annoyance that we had is we just finished a brand new balcony on our outdoor area here at Wave. Literally right before the closures happened. It was a $300,000 balcony, and our first show we were going to use it on was Method Man and Redman, and we were planning on having an even bigger year this year. We've had a lot of bands confirmed and huge artists, or we've already sold 3,000 tickets for that we've had to move to 2021. It's most artists have been just rescheduling their concerts for a year in advance. So a lot of people don't want to hold on to their tickets for a year. They don't know what they'll be doing on that date in a year. It's been a really interesting experience, and it's kind of strange to promote a concert that's a year from now. Those are just a few things I thought of. So here's a question from Amy. They definitely say that once venues reopen and concerts come back, that there will be a boom after the Spanish flu that a lot of people have been talking about. There was a huge boom in arts and entertainment spending, and I know that people will be interested, and studies have shown that it's possible that it could be busier than ever. On the other hand, there are concerns about safety. A lot of people still aren't comfortable with taking or getting a shot or immunizations, and a lot of venues that are still trying to do things are doing mandatory temperature checks, and it kind of gets makes people feel uncomfortable sometimes. And also, a lot of people really, I don't think, will be comfortable going into a huge crowd, where at concerts you're used to, being covered in somebody else's sweat, basically. You're shoulder to shoulder singing along to these songs, breathing in everybody else's air. It's definitely going to be after spending so much time alone, and separated from the world, I think that people are excited, but it's also going to be a bit of an internal debate whether or not they're actually comfortable doing it. And so that's another thing that a lot of venues have been doing is safety protocols, which is another expense that is going to be added to the endless expenses. Is adding barricades and getting temperature guns, or just hand sanitizing stations. Just the possibilities of making sure that everybody feels safe and comfortable, and especially in a space this big is difficult. But we're really excited to open back up. We've really made a lot of connections. I was going to mention that with our county commission, we've talked a lot with Lacey Cruz, and she's coming on later this week. And it helps that she's a local musician, and she's played at venues that I've worked at before for a long time, and it's nice to have a sympathetic ear from her in her position. Unfortunately, she's just one woman, so really it's been interesting to learn more about our local government and how they can help us, and how really one thing that we're doing forward from here is getting a lot more involved, encouraging people to vote and use their voice, and also vote with your dollars, support the businesses that you like, and research the candidates, and on now. But yeah, I don't know if there's any more questions, let me know. Other than that, I'll give you guys a few minutes. I really appreciate you coming and listening to me. I'm usually used to the interaction some more, but I know probably a lot of this seems kind of boring, but I find it exciting now, the whole legislation and bill process. I really should have paid a lot more attention to government. Turns out some of that education is important. All right, well, we're almost up to 40 minutes here. It's not too bad. But I hope you guys enjoy the rest of CommWeek. It really is a pretty fun event, and I love the Elliott School. And I really appreciate them for asking me to do this. And thanks for giving me a platform to talk about what we've been doing, and hopefully maybe you guys can follow along. Check out our Instagram page. It's NIVA SSOC, or NIVA SSOC. So or just check out the Save Our Stages hashtag, and you can hopefully we'll be celebrating. We'll all be celebrating together soon. So.